Hello, welcome to Homeschool Together. Thanks so much for joining us. If you're listening to this right now or watching the video, we have a podcast and we also have our YouTube channel, and we're very, very, very pleased to have Valerie Castle with us today for our interview. So I'll toss it over to the wife because she's really good at these things.
Wow, you totally got that on the first go. I'm really excited. Good job.
I'm getting
All right.
better every day.
Well, we're so excited to have you, Valerie, and for us to be doing this interview on YouTube. So, on the videos, so that's fun. So, thank you so much for joining us from our homeschool castle. And today we're going to talk about special needs homeschooling. So, welcome.
Thank you.
So, can you give us some background on your family and what drove you all to homeschool?
Yeah, so my oldest daughter is 10, so about 12 years ago, I think, I was a nanny for a homeschool family, and it was the first time that I'd really got like up close with that situation. And not only that, they were secular homeschoolers, and I didn't even know there was such a thing. So
Mhm.
just learning like how they did things and how they learned and how it was more about connecting with their kids and them getting into their favorite topics. It just really spoke to me. So I knew then I wanted to do it whenever I had children. And I actually went with that and started homeschooling before I even knew that my daughter had special needs. So it was always something I wanted to do.
So, can we call you a veteran homeschooler then?
Yeah, I know. I know. I just can't believe it's been that many years, but yeah, it's been a while. And then I also have a stepdaughter who's 11 days older than my daughter actually,
Mm.
which is wild. My husband and I first knew each other in high school 20 some years ago. Went our separate ways, had separate lives, married, and each had a daughter. And then when we met, we had three more. And so now they're almost five, almost four, and the little one just turned two.
Wow.
Mm,
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
keeps you busy.
so
Yes.
have you, so how many years again have you been homeschooling?
10 with
10.
my
Okay.
children. I say that because I actually did start at day one with my
Wow.
daughter. There's a book called, oh, I can't think of it right now, but I'll think of it and I'll tell you guys.
Well,
But
when you remember it, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we
I
will.
can't think of it right now. I always get it all mixed up. But it does start from day one with like motor skills and like fine
Cool.
motor skills and
Mm.
recognizing shapes or things moving. It's a really cool book. So yeah.
When you first started out homeschooling, how was it different than it is now? I mean, now I know a lot of homeschooling is very internet focused, where we have a lot of curriculums, we do a lot of
Right.
research, we have the YouTubes, obviously, to do this
Right.
type of stuff. How was it different about 10 years ago? And that wasn't too long ago. I mean, we weren't
Right.
that, yeah, it wasn't too long ago.
Well, I just got really creative. I mean, I'm an artist at heart. Like what we do in our homeschool is a lot of art. So I
Mhm.
always made things like I made this big board with felt and lace, and I put all alphabet letters on it. And yeah, you're right. There wasn't any really internet like connections that you could find. I was always trying to find other homeschoolers in my
Mhm.
area, particularly ones that would welcome everybody, all
Mhm.
walks of life. And I did. I found quite a few groups in every city that I moved to, and I really just bounced ideas off of other people and found out what they were doing as well. Yeah.
Was that primarily, so the term that we've heard before is co-ops? Was it a co-op that you
Yeah.
could do classes, or was it just really just a kind of a meetup group of other homeschooling parents?
Yeah, back then it was definitely just a meetup group with other homeschool friends because they had kids of all different ages, which a lot of co-ops do. But
Okay.
we weren't doing any classes or anything. It was more just connecting with other families that were like ours.
Awesome. What did you
Yeah.
have a certain type of curriculum or an ideology going into homeschooling, and did that change at all?
Yeah, not really. I just wanted to do things my way and learn myself as I taught her. Like that learning is like education is so much fun for me. And I have like really weird little niches that I like. And so of course, my daughter is all about it. She's all about like sci-fi and like vampires and like all sorts of funny things, but we use those things to teach her other stuff, like
Mhm.
her interests. Um yeah, I mean, I didn't really ever have a curriculum at that time until she got of age to start, teaching. And it was just stuff that you could get at Target or like I
Okay.
always built my own curriculum. Yeah.
Okay. So you kind of follow. We've heard the term eclectic homeschoolers, where they kind of just
Yeah,
piece it together as opposed to following a
exactly.
track.
That's
Do you,
that's me in life, so it works it works with our teaching too.
did you
Yeah.
notice that all the kids kind of gravitated to that? They were okay with that, or did you see some kids
Yeah.
enjoy different types of tracks?
Right. Yeah, it totally depends. Like my 3-year-old, almost 4-year-old son, he knows all of his letters. He started to read like subtitles off movies and it blows our mind. Like how did I came in the house the other day and I saw Bingo written on the floor in chalk and I was like, I bet that was my son. But then my older kids, it took a while for them to get into reading and recognizing letters. They're just not interested. They do recognize some. So yeah, it's definitely each child is always different, but I feel like they all like the idea of go with the flow because of my special needs daughter.
Mhm.
A lot of the times we always have to go with her feelings for the day.
Mhm.
If she's having a bad day, not necessarily, my daughter has epilepsy, so not necessarily having seizures, but maybe just having a bad day, having a bad emotional day. So we just kind of just use the day to play as a family and connect rather than getting hardcore into our curriculum.
Yeah.
So can you tell some more about your daughter and, when she was diagnosed and how that changed your homeschooling plans with her?
Yeah, so my daughter started, so she's 10 now. She started having seizures at 15 months old. And at first, you think it's febrile seizures, with fever, and it was for a while, but it just wasn't changing or getting better. And so we started different medications with her that just didn't work or made it worse. And then at age 4, she had an overnight EEG and was found out that she has a genetic disorder. It led to the
Mhm.
testing and found out she has Dravet syndrome, which is a rare genetic disorder. 1 in 20,000 people have it. Um, but upon finding that out, we found out all the medications we were giving her were the wrong ones, that they
Okay.
actually made it worse,
Um,
Okay.
unfortunately. So once we got her on the right medications, things totally changed for us and for her. When I moved to Colorado, she was about 4. Yeah, she was 4, and higher altitude made her start having seizures every day.
Oh
oh
wow.
no.
Yeah, so it was a really hard time. And that being that 4 to 5-year-old range is like that's when your brain is really growing and developing and you're going from a little kid to a bigger kid, like a lot is going on. And now I know in our community, in the Dravet community, that that's when they have the majority of their seizures.
Okay.
And so she couldn't really do a lot school wise at that time.
Mhm.
The medications made her tired, the seizures made her tired, but then eventually she did get through that and um, now is able to do school with us. And she has a very wide vocabulary just because I've always talked to her, not talked down to her, but talked to her like, I'm not like an adult, but like not like she's a little kid. And I've always read books to her and like every day, all the time. And I feel like that really helped boost her to where she is now. And she's able to grow from this age. But also, we found out at one point when we had her first MRI that she had a stroke during childbirth because she had a scar on her brain. And for a
Mhm.
long time that we thought that was why she was having seizures. It was kind of a red herring. So
Okay.
she does have word finding issues, so she goes forward and backwards in her learning. And that's why we do ASL. I talk about that on my YouTube channel, how we're learning it as a family. And I'm really impressed with my two older ones. They are learning it. And my daughter now comes and she like completely speaks to me in sign language. Not my daughter with Dravet, but my stepdaughter. And it's helped my daughter communicate with us. Like if she cannot find a word in her mind, we sign it to her and then she can say it. So it's really
Is it
amazing
is
actually.
that part of the struggle of her need is the communication aspect and being more physical as opposed to, verbal? Is that
Right,
that's easier for her to communicate?
right. And that,
Okay.
yep. And I've talked to a lot of speech therapists and they say that people do use ASL for kids like this, that it does help them a lot.
Is it a short-term thing? Like, is she gonna, improve over time that she'll be able
Right.
to speak, or will ASL be her normal means of communication?
She is able to speak.
Okay.
Some days, I was just talking to somebody recently about this. She looks like a typical child. Like she can talk and communicate and walk and do things age appropriate for her. And then other days she's just exhausted. Whatever it is that's going on with her disorder,
Okay.
exhausts her and she just can't find words. She just can't. And then of course that's when she gets more angry and more
Mhm.
aggressive and stuff like that.
Okay.
So
Was it
yeah.
your goal? Was it your goal to homeschool her from the beginning, or was that a
Yeah.
choice you had to make? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I wanted to. I was just in love with the whole,
All right.
thought process behind homeschooling. But then once I found out that she had these special needs, I knew that she was safer at home.
Okay. Okay. It
Mhm.
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. In the, excuse me if I say it wrong, the Gervais community, is there a lot of people homeschool in that community? Is it supportive for you?
Yeah, not a lot of people, but there are
Okay.
some, and I do talk to them pretty regularly. The whole community is very, very supportive. I mean, I feel like any community with a special diagnosis, really gets it. Because
I
it's
understand.
there's some really odd things that, I just like my daughter won't look at the color purple. I mean, that's totally made up, but it's like really weird and specific like that. And it's nice to talk to people who really understand and get that. Yeah.
Understood. How have you, maybe talk to us about like what a day looks like, maybe a good day and a bad day of your homeschooling life, because you got
Yeah.
all the kids, you have your daughter. How do you manage all that? I mean,
Yeah.
managing multiple kids is difficult
Yeah.
enough, and so maybe walk
Mhm.
Yeah.
us through what that looks like.
Yeah. So, after I one little thing before,
Sure.
after I moved to Colorado area, I became my daughter's CNA because you can do that here in the state of Colorado. You can be a relative CNA, which means I care for her.
Mm.
That's certified um, nurse. So um, then I also got a nurse for her during the day. So she does have somebody that helps me with her.
Okay.
And that's been for the last almost 5 years.
Okay.
Um, so that is one way that I could do multiple children.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
the nurse is there, of course, to do all of the physical stuff for her if she can't do it. And then also for safety, because my daughter can get into things and not have any safety awareness. But so that's a big help. So what what a good day is, recently we had a unit study that we did on squirrels because
Mhm.
we wanted to do a nature study and I mean squirrels are everywhere. So I thought, well, let's just observe the squirrel in our backyard. And then we looked up like a documentary on Curiosity Stream, which there was one. And then I did a printout. I did a game. I made a game for them and I printed it and laminated it and we played it. So it's like there are things that are at different levels. So all the little kids can really get into the game. Even the big kids like the game. But then I will add like vocabulary to my oldest and like more like geography or something that's more, for her age level.
Mhm.
Um, and then my daughter who has special needs, she really can get into it. where she wants to, and this is where the vampire thing comes into, because she found out that there was a salmon eating squirrel, and she was just thrilled by that because it, when it ate the salmon, it had little blood, right? And so she thought it was like a vampire squirrel. So she drew pictures about that all day long and talked about it. So it's nice because we can connect as a family and learn and do something fun together, and there's
Mhm.
something on, a level for everybody.
Um,
Yeah, sorry.
do you have any standards that you have to meet in Colorado? Like what are
Um,
some of the state regulations that you have to deal with?
yeah, there are Colorado state standards, and you can go on the website and look
Mhm.
at it or print it out. And we do meet all of those. And then also there's like 4 hours a day for 172 days, I think.
Mhm.
And we actually have an umbrella school that I turn all of our, because it's just one thing I don't have to deal with. I just turn it all,
Yeah.
I just turn it all with them. And yeah, I mean, we meet all of our standards. My daughter, goes back and forth depending on writing and reading is very difficult for her. She'll learn it and then lose it. So we use stuff like therapy for part of her
Mhm.
school because she is learning life skills and things that she needs, and
Absolutely.
speech, of course. And then the other kids, they have their own. Obviously, we don't really like, I don't really go by grade level, I go by age level because depending on the curriculum, sometimes it's way younger than what it says, or it's way older than what it says. And I mean, every child is different. I just
Mhm.
try to go with how everybody is learning. Yeah.
So you have a variety of children, different ages and different skill levels and things, and then the needs of your daughter. How do you meet everyone's individual needs and while caring for her? That must be we have a hard time meeting the individual needs of two children.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we do it as a family. And my husband works here at home. I mean, since the pandemic, he started working at home. And he goes in really early because he can at like 5:30, and then he gets off at 2. And then I can do like the harder stuff like the math with my oldest at that time and just do one-on-one, and he can be with the other kids. We just juggle it. And I know a lot of people say, have this in their mindset that homeschool or school is from, 9 to 3, but it's not. It's like anytime you want to, you can do it. Weekends, you can, tackle some of the harder stuff if you have help with another, with your spouse or whatever. And that's kind of how we have to do it, because I do need help with the other ones if they're getting into stuff.
I think I cut you off on the good days. Maybe you could
Oh yeah.
describe what a bad day look. I
Right. Yeah, yeah.
you
No,
were
that's
talking,
okay.
and I was like, "This is interesting. I want to go learn about this."
That's okay.
But
Yeah.
yeah. So, what does a
Um,
bad day look like? Like, I don't want to say
so
bad day because it's negative. Like, what is a more
yeah,
difficult, challenging
like a
day for
more
you?
difficult day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I have morning baskets is what they're called. I mean, they're any
Mhm.
kind of baskets. Um, and I just have them full of like books and games and toys. And if my daughter is having, who has special needs, who is having sorry, is having a bad day, and her emotions are just out of control. It could be that she just didn't sleep well and everything is upsetting her. She's preteen, there's a lot of things. Um, then for everybody's sanity, it's just good to just not do, anything that's more focused, because she needs the focus. So I get these baskets out and I give them to the kids. And then my oldest has her books that she reads. She'll just read more books. And a lot of her curriculum, actually, she can just go and read the assignment and just do it for the day. There are, some pieces that we do together, but when it comes to those days, I just give them stuff that they can learn and play with on their own for most of the day.
Hmm.
And it works out that way a lot better for us.
So, before the pandemic, did you guys go out a lot? I mean, how did you interact?
Yeah.
Homeschooling has really, we've made the joke, it's isolation school
Yeah.
during the pandemic.
I
What
know.
was your day like before the pandemic? Like, were you getting out hiking? You're in Colorado, it's beautiful all the time, it's gorgeous, unless it's like
Yeah.
5 feet of snow. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
what do you guys do for enrichment and fun and
Right.
whatnot?
Yeah, so also being a family with a Dravet kid, we have to be careful because she has a very low immune system. So
Okay.
winter time, we don't usually go out. We have in the past, and we've regretted it because my daughter, the common cold will put her in the hospital.
Oh
Um,
no.
so it's the times like the summer or like fall and spring, and we would go to there's a Denver Museum of Nature and Science, and that would be like, I mean, it's huge. It has so much in there, and that would be like a big event for us. We were too going to co-ops once a week, or one co-op once a week for it was a science co-op. And we would do experiments and meet with 5 or 6 other families. And then they had a, a very nice playground in their backyard, and the kids would play. Like the lesson would be like 30 minutes, and then they would play for 3 hours. Um, yeah, it was fun. And then
Yeah, well, that's enriching too.
it is. I mean, they get to connect with kids, and there were kids all different ages, but ages for each of my children. Um, yeah, and it's funny, like when the pandemic started, a lot of people like therapists, or they were checking in on us, like, "Are you guys okay?" We're like, "This is normal for us." Actually, we're kind of used to isolating during, cold and flu season, but after a year, it is hard because we still have to be very diligent to keep my daughter safe, and yeah, so it wasn't that much different in the beginning for us.
Inside your house, you guys are obviously doing a lot of homeschooling. Do you have a specific type of space? Do you kind of spread out through the house? What does it look like, for
Yeah,
the kids and their homeschooling?
we usually spread out.
Okay.
Mhm.
We do it
Yeah.
all over the place. Sometimes I have to follow my daughter around or I just start performing or reading or doing something, and then she'll come because she does it. I mean, if you tell, she's very stubborn too. If you tell her she's going to learn, no way, she's not going to do it. But if you just start, like reading or performing something, then she'll come and join in. We do it outside too if it's nice. I mean, yeah, Colorado is nice most of the time. And like we have just set up our house with all sorts of fun obstacles. Like we have like a sensory swing, we have a
Mhm.
trampoline. I mean, we have all this stuff so that we can still have fun at home. And we just learn wherever the kids are at. I just teach
Do you
them
guys
there.
go all year round, or you
Yeah.
try to stay within the school year?
We go all year round because there were times when my daughter would spend a pretty big chunk of time in the hospital.
Okay.
So to meet all the standards and meet all the time, I just would do it all the time. In the summer, though, we don't do all of the curriculum. We just, stick to of course, reading, math, science, like the more meatier stuff for the curriculum. And then we save like the big lessons and everything to, kind of the regular school year.
Okay. So how do you described your unit studies and your baskets? How much planning do you do to get ready for the day or the week or the month? How does that work for you?
It it changes every sometimes I'm like really, I'm really in a planning mood, and I'm like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. I'll set these things up ahead of time because I know there's gonna be times I'm too tired to figure it out in the moment. And like those baskets, for sure, I set those all up and change them every month. Other than that, I go by this curriculum. I use Build Your Library curriculum. I don't know if you know that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're
Oh,
using.
yeah,
I
that's
use this
right. You
one.
had Emily on here.
Hmm.
And so I go kind of by her schedule, not really. I usually just write it whatever day it is. I just say week 12, day
Mhm.
3 for her, for my daughter, and then she'll know where to look in the curriculum, and that works out really well. Yeah. Otherwise, and then she has like her specific math, and I'll just say do this math program or this math program. Um yeah, I don't plan a ton besides doing just the random unit study if I find like a really fun one.
Mhm.
Like on Etsy, I've been looking on there. There's some really cool unit studies on there. If I just feel like, hey, this will be fun for us. Or if I find like a science, like we just did the crystal growing science kit that I found at
Mhm.
Barnes and Noble. I mean, I just like, this will be fun, you know. Yeah, we're totally eclectic. Yeah.
It's nice though, because then that suits your needs for that day or that time period, or
Right.
whatever nature's like. If you can't get outside, you just change it. I love the flexibility. I'm sure that's just key for your family.
Yeah, it
Yeah, we
has
just
to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
we just did a bunch of interviews with first year homeschoolers due to COVID, and like
Oh,
I think like 4 out of 5 of them were eclectic homeschoolers. They just did what they felt was right and kind of
Yeah.
put together a
yeah.
curriculum.
Yeah.
So tell us about YouTube and why castles are important on YouTube.
It's funny. I got one of those apps and I just started typing in random words and it came up with that our homeschool castle. I was like, "Oh, I really like that."
Yeah,
It
it's
was
cute.
totally random, yeah.
Well, and it fits because your house is the centerpiece of your family and
Yeah,
the homeschooling really
exactly.
does fit.
Yeah. That's how I was really drawn to it too. Yeah.
So tell us about it. Like what
Oh
are you
yeah.
trying to do with it? What you achieve?
So yeah, so a year ago I started a sewing channel first because that's my background. I have a fashion degree and I worked in theater in Seattle for 14 years. And then when my daughter was born, I thought, oh, I'll just, still do have my clients at home. I also sew costumes. I did a lot of aerial performers, roller derby, stuff like that. But then once she had seizures, I had to stop. Everything. And so I didn't sew for years and years and years. And then I started a sew. I was like, okay, my daughter's a little bit older. I want to start a sewing channel. I have like all this knowledge I want to share with people. And then the pandemic hit. And then all my friends and family, not all, but a lot of friends and family were like, how do you homeschool? And I
Right.
thought, oh, I should just switch gears and do a homeschool channel instead. And because I'm secular homeschooler, there's not a lot on YouTube.
Oh.
I have a special needs daughter, which I knew a lot of people were going to bring their special needs children home and not know what to do.
Mhm.
Or like, like, how do I do this? And we're a blended family as well. So we co parent and homeschool, and we have been for a while. And, we have tips on how it works for our family. Obviously, everybody's different. And then I have preschoolers, kindergartners. And we're learning ASL. I just had a lot of things that I could help people with, I thought. And
Yeah.
and so I started the channel and I started focusing in on all of that. And the majority of people that talk to me over on my channel have special needs children, and
Awesome.
they find that it's very it's very soothing to find other people that are in the same boat and understand what it's like. And then I started talking on Clubhouse as well, once a week about special needs homeschooling with another friend of mine who's a podcaster. And we get a lot of people in there, needing
Did you
help
you
or
got one of the beta invites?
yeah, yeah. I will invite you guys. I didn't know you weren't on there. Yeah, you have to have
I'm
iPhone. That's the only
I
thing.
I'm
If
not
you
on
have
the
iPhone.
clubhouses yet. Nope.
I have no idea
Yeah.
what this is.
She doesn't know what
Yeah.
it is, but I know
Oh
what it is.
man. Yeah,
As
yeah.
as somebody who subscribes to 80 podcasts as my normal flow of podcasts, I know about the clubhouses.
It's a
Oh,
lot like a live, like
It's
FM radio or AM radio kind
it's
of.
more radio than podcast.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It's
I
cool.
Homeschool Together needs to get on the podcast.
I say okay to a lot of things that he comes up
Okay,
with,
you're
and I
like,
I don't know what I'm saying okay to, but I'm like, okay, well, I'll do it.
I'm too
yeah.
busy to do. I'm too busy to do things. I have homeschooling to take care of.
Yeah.
So on your channel, you said there's lots of parents that have different special needs children. Are there any common strategies, that you found across this? I think neurodiverse is the right word. Is that right? Neurodiverse community. Are there techniques and things that kind of they can span that spectrum, or is it just so individualized for every family has to find their key?
I upon talking to a lot of other people with special needs children and homeschooling them, we have this commonality of art. The kids,
Mm,
because you can't get a wrong answer in art. Art
Mhm.
is expressive, and these children are so used to, I know mine, and I'm talking about my friend as well, used to being told what they can't do. And like, especially in like public school, there's a lot of like, we need to meet these different goals, and they can't do this, and we need to learn to do this. But in doing art, you can do anything. and you're not wrong. And they love that expression. And I know my daughter especially can really get into the sensory piece of art as well. And she will sit down, and she does not have an attention span that's very big for anything. But when it comes to doing art, she could sit there for a few hours working on one specific project, getting it the way that she wants to. And it's beautiful. And I see and hear other people telling me this as well. Um, Besides the art piece, also just going with the flow and meeting them where they are and going towards what their interests are and what they're drawn to. It's kind of like that unschooling um, train of thought, I guess, just to go with the flow with them and teach them to uh, their interests and loves. Yeah.
Wow, that's
Hmm.
great. So what main advice would you have to give if there's a family who's just realized that their child has special needs, they're going to decide to homeschool? You know, I'm sure that that's a very scary and uncertain time for them. What advice do you have? How do you approach this? There's probably obviously find your channel and watch that, but what advice would you give to a new family?
I would say to, yes, watch YouTube channels with special. There are quite a few. I have some friends that also have channels with special needs children. And what's so wonderful about watching them is their day in the life. And you can
Hmm.
really visually get like what it looks like. And even for me, when I was doing this stuff, at first, it was so nice to just see what other people's days look like. Because even as like homeschoolers, if you've been a homeschooler for a long time, um, you still kind of feel like, am I doing this right? This
You
seems
kind of
kind of
expect
weird.
somebody to check up on
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
yeah. And then, watching other people's day in the life, you're like, oh yeah, I totally do that, or oh, we
Hmm.
could do that. It's very inspirational, and it's also, confirming of what you're doing already, and also find community. It's great to find actually, even in Colorado, there are Facebook groups for children with special needs that are homeschool, and then there's children that are preschool special needs with homeschool. Like there's quite a few if you start looking. There might even be one specific to the diagnosis that you have. I know a friend of mine who has a daughter with Down syndrome. They have a group too with other special needs children in homeschooling. So to really bounce off ideas with each other and find a community is the best idea.
Well, I think we've kept you long enough. We've about
Yeah.
30, 45 minutes here.
Oh wow.
We
It
don't want
didn't
to take
seem
up
like
too
that
much time.
long.
No, it goes.
Yeah.
Oh
Always,
my gosh, I was just
it always goes
talking.
Time
so
flies
fast.
when you're having
It
fun.
always goes fast.
Yeah.
Do you have any takeaways? Like I know you just had this great line here, but do you have anything that, like, if I'm a homeschooling parent or I want to homeschool and I have a special needs kid and I'm considering it and things of that nature, is there something that inspiration you can give to them, or assuage some of their fears?
Yeah, that you're the best teacher for your child. You know them the best. And it's not about like meeting certain kinds of goals, but knowing what their needs are. And yeah, you know them better than anybody else, and nobody can tell you different than that.
Amen. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, Valerie, thank you so much for
Yes,
spending
thank
time with
you.
us today.
Thank
This was really
you.
great and illuminating. I know it's an area of homeschooling we haven't really discussed very
Yeah.
much, and I know we're going to make the effort to try to reach out to other people who have different type of homeschooling environments
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
different
really
needs.
learn and understand that we're all kind of very similar in a lot of respects, and we can always learn from each other. So
Yeah, we're all in this together.
thanks so much for
Yeah.
joining us today.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.